Okay, good morning and welcome to this class. First, I want to introduce myself. My name is David Quijano and I will be your teacher today. Well, now in this class, I want to introduce to you this topic, and this is a very fascinating topic about hobbies, as you can see in this poster. But later we are going to check what is this poster about. But first, let me tell you a story about what happened to me using one of my favorite things in the world, that is my computer. Playing video games, that is my hobby. So, as I told you, my hobby is about playing video games, but those video games are very, very competitive. So you need to be very, very concentrated playing those video games. And you have to be very, very concerned and committed to learn about those games. For example, if you want to reach a certain grade or a certain level in that game, you should practice 24/7. But don't get me wrong. Those games are not consuming my entire time. I mean that those games are part of my life, but not all my life. So, you should be very careful with your hobbies. Not all the hobbies are like demanding your time, like playing video games. Of course, if you have a hobby, you will want, or you would want to pay all your attention and time to do that hobby. So, let me tell you the story. I'm focusing my attention on what it, but not what happened to me. Okay, as you can see here, many of these hobbies are very interesting. My experience with video games is also interesting too. Well, I was playing my favorite game. It is called League of Legends, and some of you should be laughing at this moment, because League of Legends is pretended to be for only young people, but I am almost 30, and you are surely thinking or asking yourselves, why is that guy playing League of Legends if that game is only for kids or teens? Well, you must not think that way, in my opinion, because League of Legends is meant to be one of the games that most of the seniors play nowadays. So, what would you tell me if I tell you that League of Legends is a very important game, that you can get money playing on it, and if you are a professional player, you can even get more money playing with your team? Oh, that's different, right? Because this game, as many others, represents something very important for a lot of people and a mean of getting money. So before you criticize a game, just pay attention to what are people doing with that game, and maybe you can have a very good experience playing that game. Okay, let's take the right way now. As I was telling you, I was playing my video game, my favorite game, and one of my partners of the team told me that I didn't have to be that aggressive playing League of Legends. I mean, don't get me wrong again. When you are playing this game, you have to beat the opponent by destroying some towers that are in front of you. So, when you destroy those towers, you can get to the inhibitor or the nexus that is called in that game. So, if you destroy that building or those buildings, you win the match. And the game gives to each team some minions, so you can beat those minions and collect gold to buy items, so you can purchase many weapons in the store. So, with this introduction, I have put you in context. So, as I was telling you again, that partner told me that I didn't have to be that aggressive to the other team, to the enemy team. I was just risking a lot, and I should have been very careful with that, because if I risked a lot, I could have been beaten or ganked by the other team. This game is played by teams 5 to 5, and if the members of that team notice that you are playing alone and risking a lot, you will surely be ganked, and then for sure you will be beaten and killed. So I was playing that way, very aggressive. Suddenly the other team noticed that I was playing in that style, in that way, but I noticed that they were coming, and I told my partners, hey, why don't you come to my base, why don't you come to my tower, and we have the chance to win, protecting that tower and making like a trap for the enemy team. So my team agreed, and I tried to make like a trap. I was just killing minions all the time, advancing and advancing and advancing. When the other team came, and just the team's battle started. Fortunately, we won, but it demanded me to be very concentrated and almost losing my line. Okay, it seems that it's very funny, right? It's because I enjoy my hobby, and I enjoy discovering strategies to play better. So, in many other hobbies, you can have the same experience or even a better experience. Of course, some experiences are going to be more satisfying or more satisfactory than others. For example, if you play like a ballet dancer in a theater, for example, you should know a lot of things you have to do and others that you don't have to do in order to have success. So let me explain every single hobby so you can identify yourself, and if you haven't found your hobby yet, now you're going to find yours. Maybe you can start practicing one of these. So let's start. I have prepared for you some flashcards. So with these flashcards, you will see some facts to notice and to take into consideration. Well, let me present to you. This obviously is breakdance, and breakdance considers many facts that you will surely have seen in parties, for example, or in competences around the world. One of these is the following: you must be the life and soul of a party. Well, if you know how to dance, and if you know how to do this move, or even more skillful moves or harder moves, you will surely call the attention of your public, of your friends, of your family, and so on. So, you must be the life and soul of a party. Of course you will be, because everyone will be paying attention to you and to your moves and your dances and everything you do. But you have to be flexible to do that, right? You don't want to be injured, or you don't want to fail doing a movement. Of course, you have to be flexible, and to reach that flexibility, you need to practice. But you should practice 24/7. You can't have very good skills, or if you pretend to make your hobby a profession, you can't expect to have that success if you don't practice. And many young people and teens have done these practices 24/7. It means that they practice all the day, 24 hours a day, to reach this quality and this performance. Of course, if you like this hobby, it is time maybe for you to start practicing and looking for an academia to teach you how to dance and how to move like this. Okay, so what do you think? Should we paste this on the board? Okay, let's paste it on the board. Let's put it here so we can have a reference of breakdance and you can see what you have to do, what you have to consider, and what you don't have to do. Later we're going to write it a little bit more resumed, so you can understand it in a better way. Okay, let's move to the next one. Here I have one of the hobbies that I consider the hardest of all. Why? Let's take a look. Ballet dancing. Is this from the poster? Okay, as you see, this ballerina or this dancer is performing a very, very interesting move. This move represents years of practice, and maybe to reach that happiness while performing that movement, she practiced a lot. Okay, should we ask ourselves if she is in her element? Ask you this question: are you in your element doing your hobby? Are you enjoying what you are doing? If the answer is yes, you will probably have something very special so you can show the world, okay? Now, must seniors practice this? This is a very important question. I have seen just little girls or teenagers or adult women practicing ballet dancing. But do you think that a senior, an old woman, for example, a 65 years old woman, is she able to practice this? Must she practice ballet dancing? What do you think about it? Is that correct? Is she able to perform the same movements that she is practicing right here? Maybe you're thinking that it is not possible. Why are you thinking that way? Maybe practicing 24/7, that girl or that woman could reach this level as well. But let's consider something different. What should you buy at first? This could be the difference between something at first or something later. Well, maybe, as you can see, this ballet dancer should buy at first the dress or the shoes, the special shoes that she is dressing here, or maybe something different. Well, what do you think about it? Would you buy something like this? If you like ballet dancing, of course, or you would buy something different. Maybe you should take into consideration that buying these things at first is not something useful. Maybe you should buy a different outfit to start practicing this hobby. Because if you practice at first this hobby and you don't like it, maybe you can change the hobby without spending a lot of money. Okay? So, let's take a look on the other question. It says, do you have to practice it 24/7? Maybe to reach this level, you will have to do it. Or you do practice that amount of time. But if you want to just learn and make something like entertainment, maybe you don't have to practice 24/7. Maybe you will have to practice just a pair of hours a day, or maybe you will have to practice this hobby just 1 week per month, or maybe more separated time. Okay, let's paste it on the board. Are you enjoying this class? Well, I am enjoying this class. And I have learned a lot during this class and preparing this class and this material for you. So, the next hobby. I have prepared for you these questions about stamp collecting. Have you heard about this? Maybe in Ecuador it is not popular, but in the United States or in the States, collecting stamps could be something really entertained and really funny to do, really fun to do. So, you have it here in the poster, and let's take a look on the questions. Is this for you? Maybe you should ask yourself if this is for you. Maybe you don't have to start doing this because you surely like something different. Because stamp collecting requires a lot of time, right? Or maybe, are you patient? Like this question says? Let's think about it. Stamp collecting requires time because to collect this stamp of an owl is different or very hard or very difficult, and you are going to be chasing the chance to buy this stamp, or maybe asking your friends or relatives or maybe your neighbors if they have this stamp that you are needing. Maybe this is not something useful for you because you are not patient, but if you are, you should consider trying this hobby, because let's talk about the rewards. When you have a lot of stamps, and for example, you collect all the stamps from one decade, and they are very rare, very unique, you can sell them in order to have a lot of money as a revenue, okay? And you will be doing something really good. I think that there are a lot of people that are doing this as a hobby, but also as a business, or maybe as collectionists. And collectionists will surely pay for these stamps a lot of money. So think again, if you are up to this hobby and you can maybe start doing this. It looks very interesting, right? And if this is for you, just start doing this. Maybe you will have to consider buying an album or just trying to make some research on the internet and look for other people that are recommending things for this hobby. And maybe it will not take you 24/7 as the other hobbies that we mentioned before. Maybe it will not require to practice 24/7 to reach this skill. Or maybe you will not have to consider buying an outfit to do this hobby. So it could be cheap at first, but maybe patience is the value that you have to invest in this hobby. So what do you think? Should we paste this flashcard on the board? Yes, do you agree? Excellent. So let's paste it, so we can have this as a reference for later. Excellent. Now we have 3 very good hobbies stated and pasted on the board. Now let's make a pause and talk about a little bit about what is your favorite thing to do about these hobbies. Maybe moving your body, like a break dance, or maybe another type of dance. Let's write here the variations of this hobby. Maybe you will have salsa, or maybe tango, or some other dance, or any other dance. Salsa, dancing, or any other could be something like this. And you can be, like it says, you must be the life and soul of a party. So consider Maybe breakdance is not for you, but maybe salsa, tango, or any other is for you too. It happens something similar to ballet dancing. So you can dance some different things as well. Maybe you can dance not ballet, you can dance classics, or maybe you can do something different. You can dance like an interpretative dancer. Interpretative dancing, or maybe other types of dancing. As you can see, here we have different types of hobbies that are derived from this core that we have here. The next one is stamp collecting. So we have to refer to collect something. What do you want to collect? Maybe stamps is not for you, but maybe other types of collections are just for you. For example, if we collect something like scale cars, like the ones that are very little and are the replicas or are the models in a very little shape and form from the big ones. So if you want to collect Ferraris, for example, you can do it and it will be very satisfactory for you. What else can you collect? For example, paintings. Paintings, but this is very expensive, right? So, in my opinion, you must not try to collect paintings because maybe you don't have enough money to do this. But if you have, it could be a good hobby for you. And of course, very, very important because you can get money from it. And that's a very important point too. Let's mention that a hobby could be represented and could be transformed into a business. So you can have a business from your hobby, and in that way you can work on the thing that you like the most in the world. For example, as I told you at the beginning, many people playing video games earn a lot of money. So a hobby that it is transformed into a job. Okay, do you like these hobbies? Do you think that those hobbies are useful for you? Because I think that I can start some of these hobbies just for fun and maybe for health. Because if you're collecting something, you're not making any physical effort. But I consider that if you make or do or practice breakdance or ballet dancing or salsa, tango or classics or interpretative, you are making a physical effort and you will have a better health as a consequence of that practice. So, very important things, very important facts that you have to consider for every single hobby. Maybe your hobby is pretty much interesting than these hobbies that I am mentioning here for you, but later you will tell me, okay? Now let's pass to jewelry making. Jewelry making is probably one of the hobbies that requires the most technical aspects and skills for the person that wants to try this at first. And let's take a look. Maybe you have to practice it 24/7 or study techniques 24/7 to reach the skill that you need for your job at this when you try to do a jewel. And then if you want to sell a jewel, you must be an expert. And why am I telling you this? Because make a question for you, just for you. Would you buy a jewel that is bad shaped or bad, I don't know, sharpened at the edges, or a jewel that is not very beautiful to see at the first glance? Maybe not, right? You have to be an expert. You must be an expert, in my opinion, because an expert can make very beautiful things like this. Or is it for young people only? I don't think so. What do you think about it? Young people can do this? Yes, of course. But maybe seniors are experts. Or maybe seniors can start doing this and be very constant and do it 24/7, and maybe they will have better results. So you should give them a chance to practice this. Or maybe they should find someone who can teach them how to do this for seniors, because maybe there are teachers but just for teens or for young people. Is there any other question? Should you start doing this? Should you start doing this? Is the question. Should you start doing this? Maybe not, because it requires materials and a lot of time, and maybe the expectation of a business. Because why would you learn this just for a hobby? Maybe if you don't need the money. But if you enjoy jewels and you are passionate to know where do they come from and where are they shaped or built or anything, you can be sure that starting knowing this is a very cool thing you can do. So let's paste it, but first let's erase the board. Let's erase this so we can paste the other flashcard. Okay. I hope you're enjoying this class as well as I'm enjoying to perform this class for you. Now let's go to the last one. And the last one is this. Plasticine modeling. Plasticine modeling is something similar to jewelry making, but not that hard. I mean that you can get very beautiful shapes like this with less effort than a jewel. But don't get me wrong, you are going to have a lot of things to consider first. First, is it cheap or expensive? Maybe if you want to start modeling plasticine, you will have to buy a lot of materials, a lot of plasticine and a lot of tools to model these shapes, because with your hands you will not be able to craft or to handcraft this shape. Okay, so try to ask yourself this at first. Is it cheap or expensive? Do you have very few money, or do you have a lot of money? Cheap or expensive? What is your condition? Maybe the first thing you have to consider before trying this out. And do you earn money with this? Maybe this question is a core question, so you should start doing this or not. What is your perspective? Let me tell you. With a plasticine modeling, you can have a lot of chances to form your shapes, any shape you want, and if you are enough or creative enough, you can have a business about it, or a business from this hobby. For example, if you love to model pets or someone's pet as the reality, for example, your friend's dog, and if you can shape that dog that belongs to your friend in a perfect way in plasticine, maybe your friend will surely buy that model to you. Why? Because that will reach a very emotional fact to your friend. and you will be able to form a business from this. Okay, so let's go to the other part, materials. Okay, so in my opinion, you must buy a lot of materials to get a quality like this or even better. Why? Because with your hands, as I told you, you won't be able to shape this quality. Or maybe the lion's hair here are needed to have like a tool to make these lines, to make this shape, or maybe you need to have models to have these parts of the body. So consider this at first before doing this hobby, but it doesn't matter. It is really, really impressive. You can go at first with your hands, and later you can buy those tools that are necessary to reach this quality. So what do you think? I think this is really interesting for us. And the core question here, do you have to practice this 24/7? What do you think? You can answer now. Well, it doesn't require too much time, not as much as jewelry making. And why? Because plasticine modeling have an advantage. The material is more flexible and you can model the times you want. Of course, it depends on the plasticine and the material. Maybe you don't have to add too much water to the material, so it can ruin or it can't be modeled later. Or maybe you do have to model a lot of times to make the consistency of the material more strengthened or more hard to destroy. It depends on the material, but it is cheaper to do this, and maybe it will take less time to do this. Okay, so do you like this? I really enjoy this hobby. Maybe it is for you and you don't know yet, and you have to try and give the first step so you can discover a new world and maybe your business and your way of living too. Let's stick it on the board. So here we have 5 different hobbies that I have explained to you, from the ideas of a poster and making some questions to guide ourselves. Now, I want you to consider 3 important things in this class. That we are talking about obligations, and that those obligations are measured with simple words. And those words are should, have to, and must. So as you have listened to me and as you have paid close attention to my speaking performance, to my stories, and to the explanation that I have given to you, should, have to, and must represent 3 basic things. Should, you can give an advice using should. For example, you should try doing plasticine modeling, or you should try ballet dancing to have a better body, or you should try breakdance to be the life and soul of a party. That's an advice. I want someone to do something like a recommendation. Have to represents an obligation, but this obligation is not something something you have to accomplish, obligated. Have to is optional. So you don't have to spend a lot of money doing plasticine modeling, because you can buy very few materials and start doing something very good and good looking. That's have to, optional. And must. Must is a strong obligation, and it expresses personal opinions based on facts that are considered previously. For example, here, jewelry making. You must be an expert. So here, why do you have to be an expert? Because you have to get this shape in a proper way. And if you want to sell those jewels, you have to be an expert. But you must know what to do. You must get that part, to that knowledge, to that level. Okay? That's what we have been speaking the last minutes. So, what do you think about this? Do you think that these hobbies are great or not? Maybe those hobbies are just the first part of an iceberg that you have to consider, you have to find. There are a lot of hobbies that we haven't considered here. Maybe you can try my hobby, playing video games, or maybe you can start a new hobby. For example, you can start doing a hobby that is very cheap, that you can practice whenever you want, and it doesn't demand a lot of time. For example, I don't know, astronomy. You can do astronomy as a hobby. You can just buy or build a very useful telescope to start looking the sky, to start searching the stars or planets or galaxies, or I don't know, many things. Or you can just watch the moon, and that's it. That's a very important hobby you have to consider. Well, now we are going to do something different. Now I want you to pay close attention to a video that I have prepared for you, so you can grab many things just considering this at first. And now we're going to pass to our computers. Okay, so here we are in our computer. We are going to use a button to start looking at watching a video where you will find some facts about what we were talking previously about these hobbies and how to apply a hobby in a real case, so you can get more information and understand in a better way how it works. Let's watch the video, and then at the end we are going to start doing some questions about it. So I will play the video and you will have to pay close attention. So let's start. Things you should and shouldn't do practicing a hobby. Mark is a 12-year-old boy from Quito. He loves to do different activities for his spare time when he is not at school. One of his favorite things to do is to practice his hobby. This hobby is all about dancing, but not any dance you can imagine. This dance is the famous break dance, where you move all your body using amazing and difficult tricks. One day, Mark decided to learn some new movements and include them into his routine to impress his friends and family. The new movements were very hard and were going to take a lot of time to acquire, but he didn't give up and kept trying. Although he was trying so hard, he was not making significant progresses, and one of his friends saw him and gave him some useful advices. He told Mark that he should try to warm up first before dancing, because he is healthy. The second advice was that he shouldn't try movements he wasn't or he hasn't thought before it could end in a fracture or in something even worse. The last advice was that he should record himself in order to check his movements later and try to improve them, checking his failures and assertions. The best judge is always the same person who wants to overcome or learn something. To conclude, Mark was now someone different and more mature than before. As a consequence, Mark's friend gave him a last advice. He told him to get fun in every single dance he did, because that's the main purpose of a hobby, to have fun. Okay, so what do you think about this video? We have seen that we have a boy that is looking for something different for his life, and this thing refers to breakdance, as we saw in the class and on the board. So I will make you some questions so you can measure how much did you understand about what I said in the class. First, what is the main concern about that hobby that Mark is having right away? The second, is Mark practicing in a good way? The third, what should Mark do to improve his movements? The other, what must Mark do to increase his skills? The next one, did Mark understand all the advices that his friend gave to him? And the last one, did Mark give any advice to his friend, or his friend gave him an advice? So try to answer these questions, and I will check those answers the next class. And at the end, you will have to give me your opinion about this, and what should you do with your hobby and what you shouldn't do with your hobby, what you must do and what you mustn't do with that, and what would you have to do and what wouldn't you have to do to improve your hobby, to make money, or to start doing something else. Well, I hope you like this class, and see you in the next occasion. Bye.